Ecclesiastes 12:1 through 8. It says, "Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened and the clouds return after the rain, in the day when the keepers of the house tremble and the strong men are bent, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those who look through windows are dimmed. And the doors on the street are shut, when the sound of the grinding is low, and one rises up at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of song are brought low. They are afraid also of what is high, and terrors are in the way. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire fails, because man is going to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets before the silver cord is snapped, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel is broken at the cistern, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, all is vanity." If that wasn't the most uplifting scripture we've ever read, actually it's one of the most depressing scriptures that you've ever read. If you get into it, he's gone through, and this is almost like at the beginning of the book where he's like, vanity is vanity. Everything just repeats itself. There's never anything new. There's never anything interesting. Now look, the sun goes up, the sun goes down. Then what happens the next day? The sun goes up, the sun goes down. The waters come down, the rain the water gets picked up in the cloud, then the rain comes down and the water goes down again. And it's a cycle. Everything in life is a cycle. I get up in the morning, I eat breakfast, and then I do what I'm going to do, and I eat lunch, and then I do what I'm going to do, and I eat supper, and then I go to sleep, and then I get up the next day, and I do it all over again. And you can see his frustration and his depression. And then it kind of gives way to talk about enjoying what it is that the Lord has given to you. And then he goes on to talk some more about just some wisdom in general. And now he goes back, and he's a little depressed again. But he gives you something to do about it. He says first, remember also your Creator in the days of your youth. When are the days of your youth? We might look and say, the days of our youth have passed. We might look and say, I think you're still in the days of your youth. Because if we define the days of your youth as something that is not what he describes in the whole rest of this passage, then most of you are still in the days of your youth. Right? I'm still in the days of my youth. Caleb and Liliana, they're definitely still in the days of their youth, but you're still in the days of your youth. And he says, in those days, in the days while you still can, while the things are good, while you still have some semblance of control of what is going on in your life, remember your Creator. Remember God when things are going good. Remember God in the good days. It's amazing what humans do. Here's what humans do. If something goes good, whose fault was it? It was my fault. I'm the reason this went good. I'm the reason this went well. I'm the one that's responsible for all the good things that happen. But then when something bad happens, what do we say? Why did God let this happen? Why did God let this happen so far that even the atheist will say that the very existence of bad things happening to you proves that God doesn't exist, which is a ridiculous argument. But that's what we do as humans. That's what we tend to do. When something goes good, it's because we're good. When something goes bad, it's because somebody else is bad or because somebody else let it happen. And Solomon reminds us here that when things are going good, we need to remember our Creator. We need to remember God in the good times. Remember that old song by the McCameys? The God on the mountain, and He's still God in the valley. We forget that He's God on the mountain sometimes. We always remember He's God in the valley. When we get down in the valley, that's when we cry out, oh, God help me, God help me. But when things are going good, we're like, I don't care if God helps me or not. And that's the way we get. And Solomon's saying, no, remember your Creator when things are going good. Remember your Creator when you've got all that energy to do all the things that you want to do in life and that you feel He's called you to do in life. Remember your Creator, because what happens, he says, then the evil days come and the years draw near where you will say, I have no pleasure in them. And that time comes. That time comes when we just say, I'm ready. I'm ready. I remember the last 2 or 3 months of my dad's life. Go and talk to him. And he'd say, I love you all, but I'm ready. I'm ready. If we still talked the way that they talked back in those days, and I guess we never really did in the mountains. But if I went and asked him and I said, Father, do you have pleasure in your days? You know what he would have said? I have no pleasure in them. I have no pleasure in them. Because he was hurting. And he saw dimly. And he was feeble. And he needed help to do everything. Did he remember God? Yes. But I saw him remember God in the good times too, where he read this passage and he took it to heart and he remembered Him in the good times. But those bad times come. There's something in here that unless the Lord Jesus Christ comes back before it happens, every one of us will do. We're going to die. We're going to die. I'm going to die. You're going to die. We're all going to die unless the Lord decides to come back first. It's a very dark picture. He says, remember your Creator before these evil days come. What else does he say? Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened. Does that sound happy? Does that sound like happy day? No. He says, and the clouds return after the rain. What's that sound like to you? It sounds like a hurricane to me. Y'all remember some of the hurricanes that have come through? When they come right through and they hit real hard, and then you're like, whew, I'm glad that's over. But what are you in? You're in the eye. And then what happens right after that? The cloud comes right back and hits you again. That's the way life is. And the older we get, it seems like the more and more it happens. You trip one day and bust your right knee, and then you have to use your left knee so much to fix your right knee's problem, then your left knee starts hurting. It's one thing right after another. The clouds return after the rain. The keepers of the house tremble, and strong men are bent. Y'all remember when Arnold Schwarzenegger was Mr. Universe? Arnold was a big guy. Strong. You know what Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to do when he's in his 90s? He's going to bend over and he's going to walk with a cane like everybody else. He says the strong men are going to be bent. When that day happens, you'll be sad. The grinders cease because they are few, and those who look through the windows are dimmed. Just can't even see like you could before. The doors are shut. A bird wakes you up. The daughters' song are brought low. Those that were cheerful and would dance. Remember when you were young, you might get going and you might just really be going, or maybe you go to the skating rink and you're really excited and you can dance around, you can sing, or you can do, whatever it is you do. How many of you could do it now? All right, I can't. I can do it for about 15 seconds. I used to ride my mountain bike 20 miles in a day and never feel it. And now if I went 20 feet, I'd be sore for a week. And that's just the way things get as we get older. But those, the daughters of song, those that would sing the songs of joy, eventually, even they are brought low. Terrors are in the way. And even One of the hoppiest of animals, the grasshopper. How does he describe the grasshopper? Drags itself. Even the grasshopper drags itself. And desire fails, and death comes. It says man is going to his eternal home. He talks about the silver cord being snapped, the golden bowl broken, pitcher shattered at the fountain, wheel broken at the cistern. That's what happens with our bodies, isn't it? Our bodies wear down. They break down. Sometimes it happens instantly. Something happens if you get a bad disease that tears through you real quick. You remember when we had the Ebola scare? I mean, when we had Ebola, a few cases in the United States back, I guess it was about 6 years ago, something like that. And when that happened, that was the one thing I did not want. I said, I do not want Ebola. You give me any other virus, anything else you want. I don't want Ebola, right? Because it tears through you so quick. And it just tears through you and makes you horrible, basically turns your insides to nothing, to mush. And you're gone. It was a very, very deadly virus. You can get that and your body can break down real quick. You're in a car crash, your body can break down real quick. It still breaks down. Or you could be blessed with a long life. And guess what your body still does? It breaks down. That silver cord's broken. The golden bowl is broken. Our bodies and our minds become less useful the longer we have them. And then what happens? Dust returns to the earth. Our bodies return to the earth. And our spirits return to God. Uplifting message, isn't it? Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, all is vanity. And what do we take from this? What do we take from all this sadness and knowing what's to come? Because it's just a fact of life that all this is on the way for each one of us. What do? We have to go all the way back up to verse number 1. Remember your Creator. Serve God now. To let you in on the hint of what is the meaning of life and all that He has tried to do, it finds down in the very bottom of chapter 12 in verse 13, the end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. What is your purpose in life? To fear God and keep His commandments. So what do we do until that evil day comes? Until that day comes that we can hardly move, we can hardly breathe, we can hardly look, when our bodies are decrepit, when our mind is gone. What do we do until then? We love God and we remember our Creator and we serve Him with the life that we have left, with the energy we have left. We serve Him because when that day comes, we're going to look back and wish that we did. We're going to look back and wish that we had done more. I'll close with this. I remember a story that I read, and I'll paraphrase it as the best that I can. It was written in one of John Piper's books. Sorry, I got the Johns confused there. One of John Piper's books. I believe it was in Don't Waste Your Life. Told a story of a man who was very advanced in age. I think he was maybe in his 90s, 93, 94 years old. And he heard the gospel, and for the first time in his life, he got it. And he turned over his life to Jesus Christ right then. And he was crying. And he was bawling. And somebody said, "What is wrong?" And his answer was, "I wasted it. I wasted my whole life because I waited so long." We don't have to say that at the end of our life. When those dark days come, we could say, I served God with all I had in the good days, and I praised Him in the good days, just the same way as I'll call out for His help in the bad days. And that's what we have to do. Any comments or questions on that?